What's going on, you guys? This is Madam, and I'm coming back to you again. We're going to go over to ABC 17, KMIZ, and the article is by a CNN news source. It says video shows corrections officer drops transgender woman on her face in Baltimore corrections facility. The article is by Taylor Romine and Reilly, CNN. I will link all the information for the people that did the article and the article itself and the description as always. It says video of a transgender woman being held in a chokehold by a Baltimore correctional officer, then dropped on her face and dragged, was released by her attorney as part of a civil lawsuit. The state and several of the officers allegedly involved. Okay? Amber Cantor was being held at the Baltimore City Central Bookings and Intake Center when the incident happened in June of 2019. Her civil complaint says Cantor suffered bone fractures in her face, severe bruising to the left side of her forehead, internal bleeding. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Severe bruising, internal bleeding in her left eye, and had to be taken to an intensive care unit, the complaint says. The video was provided by CNN by Cantor's attorney, Malcolm Ruff. He said the video is from the Maryland Attorney General's office, which represents the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. The department in charge of the intake center, the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, declined to comment on the civil lawsuit to CNN. Cantor first filed a lawsuit over the incident on her own on August 2019, Ruff told CNN. He and another attorney filed an amended complaint on November 30th of this year. The amended complaint adds additional legal language and screenshots of the video. Cantor filed a lawsuit over the incident on her, I apologize, I'm rereading that one. Her lawsuit names Officer Zanelle Santana as the officer who held her in the chokehold and dropped her. It also names Officer Okiki, and Sergeant Monette Washington, along with Faculty Security Chief and Warden and the Security of Maryland Corrections Department and the State of Maryland. CNN has reached out to the Maryland Governor, the state's Attorney General office, and the individual defendants named in the civil and criminal cases for comment. Cantor claims violations of her federal and state civil rights, as well as negligence and assault and battery. She is suing. I hate when they jump like that. Okay, she is suing for a minimum of $75,000 in compensatory damages for each of the 11 counts, but is requesting that a jury ultimately decide both the total compensatory and punitive damages, Ruff said. The lawsuit, in addition to a larger look at officials of the incident, Santana was charged with first-degree assault and 2 counts of misconduct in office in March of this year. A news release from the officer of the state's attorney for Baltimore City shows Washington and Okiki were charged with 2 counts of misconduct in office per person. They continued. In addition to the alleged assault, State's attorneys also alleges the officers submitted internal reports that concealed details about the incident, such as the specific maneuvers used to restrain Cantor and the extent of her injuries. They have not yet pleaded in the case, as their court hearings keep getting delayed, Ruff said. The attorneys for the defendants, with criminal charges, have not responded to CNN's request for comment. At the time of the charges, MDPSCS Secretary Robert Greene said in a state's attorney's news release that their department will not tolerate violence against inmates, just as well as not tolerate it against our staff. If the allegations are true, they represent behavior of there you go, it jumped again. Tarnishes, the badge of every correctional professional, he continued. Cantor's attorney said in a statement to CNN they will not let her treatment go unaddressed. We will not let this apparent hate crime committed under the watch of the Maryland prison system go unaddressed, Ruff and attorney Williams H. Billy Murray Jr. said. Amber has long fought for transgender rights and has vigorously complained about the state correctional system's mistreatment of her and other members of the LBGTQ inmate community. Okay. What precedes the video? Cantor's lawsuit says that during her detention, became notoriously known as Central Bookings Correctional Office and staff as a persistent advocate and activist for transgender inmate rights, challenging the facility's policies and practices towards transgender inmates. Ruff told CNN Cantor was being housed with male inmates. Okay. On June 14, 2019, according to Cantor's complaint, a correction officer told Cantor they intended to transfer her to a different facility that day, and if she wasn't, then she would have to be given recreational time outside her cell. This correctional officer, the lawsuit says, relayed this to another correctional officer that taking charge of Cantor, who in front of her allegedly responded that she did not give a F, will not get nothing extra. Ooh, that is terrible. Ultimately, Cantor wasn't transferred to another facility, and as she was returned to her cell, she saw other detainees having recreational time. Her lawsuit says she asked Okiki whether she too could have recreational time, to which the officer who previously called her gave her a derogatory term, allegedly cursed at Cantor and called her a derogatory term again. Okay. The corrections officer attempted to lock Cantor in her cell for the evening, but Cantor refused because the other correctional officers had promised her time outside her cell. According to the lawsuit, Cantor asked a supervisor to come to her. A lawsuit says. And when there was no response, Amber then went into the nearby Sally Port, sat on the floor in the middle of the room in protest, and said she wouldn't move until a supervisor responded. Santana then arrived, stood behind Cantor, and allegedly shouted to Washington, "Mace this effing peen sucker," okay? Wow. In the video, Cantor can be seen seated on the ground in a yellow jumpsuit surrounded by 3 correctional officers. The facility's coordinator of the emergency mental health and psychological department allegedly stopped outside the room, according to the civil complaint. Santana shouted at her to mind her own business, the complaint said. CNN could not independently confirm this comment, as the video provided contains no audio. After the coordinator left, Santana wrapped his arms around Cantor's neck in a chokehold and then brought his left arm around for a tighter grip, the complaint said. The video shows an officer lifting Cantor to her feet and off the ground while keeping her in the chokehold. The chokehold used by Santana on Cantor is expressly forbidden, according to the DPSCS, used for forcing training detectives. Cantor's lawsuit said, but it was also an attempt to cause Amber as much pain as possible. The criminal complaint against Santana also characterizes the move as an unauthorized and illegal chokehold. An officer is seen carrying her from the room into a common area with the help of another officer who grabs Cantor's right arm. The complaint describes the first officer's action in the footage as choking Amber so violently that she could not breathe and she was rendered unconscious in the matter of seconds. As the officer continued carrying an unconscious Cantor in the chokehold across a common area, two other officers are seen walking beside the first. The complaint says Okiki supported Cantor's right side, and Washington made no attempt to intervene on Amber's behalf. Next, the lawsuit says without lawful or justifiable purpose, Santana intentionally dropped Cantor's limp body and said she fell face first onto the concrete floor. Then the video shows two of the officers take Cantor's arm and drag her into another room. None of the officers sought any medical treatment for Amber for more than 10 minutes following her injuries, and she luckily regained consciousness during this time, the lawsuit says. Washington took Cantor to the Central Booking Medical Unit, where they determined her injuries were very serious. They transferred her to the intensive care unit at Johns Hopkins Hospital, the lawsuit says. Cantor was diagnosed with severe bone fractures in her face, several bruising to her left side of her forehead, internal bleeding behind her right eye, as well as I cannot pronounce that. I ain't even gonna hold you. The lawsuit says, while at Johns Hopkins, Cantor complained about the assault to the hospital staff social worker who called facility supervisors, advising them of the complaint, Cantor's lawsuit said. When Cantor was finally returned to Central Booking, staff refused to allow Amber to attend all her medical appointments in retaliation for her complaint of being assaulted, her lawsuit alleges. Mosby, upon seeing Cantor's stated, "I see you effing F. What was coming to you?" 3 days after the incident, her lawsuit says Cantor received a notice of infractions that cited her for disobeying an order, being disrespectful, engaging in disruptive acts, and making threats to the officers, according to the complaint. Santana, Washington, and Okiki are due in court on March 16th regarding the criminal charges, according to the court records. Cantor also has a pending request for a preliminary injunction in front of the same judge related to the medical care for her gender dysmorphia, her attorney told CNN. Wow. Man, that was kind of long, but you get the gist of it. As people know, I am an advocate for all people's rights. Even if you don't understand them nor like them, that's not my business or my concern. My main purpose has always been to treat people how you wanted to be treated. It's one of the foundations and purposes that I stand on. And for this to happen in a place, the same place where I live, it speaks volumes. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm totally not surprised about this because, I mean, they treat people that's not transgender the same way. There's been people that have been multiply injured, people whose rights have been violated. I don't laugh to make fun. It is a serious issue. There is a widespread culture in jail in the Baltimore Correctional, whether you be still side, DOC or the Women's Detention Center. They treat you how they want to treat you. That's no lie. I've learned that from personal experience. When you try to speak up and speak out, they have methods and ways of doing things to you. So I'll just leave it at that. It's very sad. I hope that this woman receives the justice that she is asking for. I don't believe the officers. I don't believe their complaint. I'ma just tell you that, and that's not being biased. That's from general experience and seeing what I've seen, how they treat people in there. I'm not saying that all the correctional officers are bad people, and that would be a lie for me to sit up here and say that they are. However, there are a lot of correctional officers in the Baltimore correctional systems that they have this God complex where they feel as though because you are incarcerated, not knowing what you're locked up for, even if they do know what you're locked up for, they tend to look at you as less than and beneath them. I hope that she gets the justice that she deserves. Nobody should be treated like that. A couple of years ago, it was a gentleman who had a medical illness, and they were fully aware of this medical illness that this man had, and they let this man sleep on a cold floor. And anyone that's ever been incarcerated in the system in Baltimore, you would know that in the wintertime, yes, God, in the wintertime, yeah, is the worst time to be locked up over there. I'ma just say it like that. I hope that she gets help. I hope that she is able to recover from this. And I hope that she is able to get the justice that she deserves, regardless of how you feel about her experience or what she is or what she identifies as. She is a soul having a human experience just like the rest of us, and she deserves to be treated in the same way, in the same manner as everybody else. Nobody's better than the other. Let me just say that first and foremost. So with that being said, please chime down in the comments. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you, whether you're a day one or a newbie to my channel. I appreciate the comment. I appreciate the support, and the fact that you just watched the video, even if it's for 30 seconds. I don't care. I'm so appreciative and grateful. So with that being said, you guys, if anyone who is transgender of that community, if you would like to drop down and give me some of your stories, with your permission, I will be very happy to hear them as well. Or spark a conversation, maybe even a live. Who knows? But with that being said, you guys, I will get with you in the next video.